Well, hello, my CNC brother or sister. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, and I want to give you a big fat welcome to this video where you and I are going to take a tour of a very cool tool in the Vectric software where you can learn some of the engineering type of features that are in Vectric. Now, Vectric is not like a full-blown type engineering software, but it does have some function in it that can take you to an engineering level. So what you're going to learn here is one of those tools. I got an email not too long ago from James, who is designing up an arcade game. And so he's cutting the side panels, or he's trying to, and he took measurements and he was trying to draw it in the Vectric software. But he was having a lot of trouble getting it exactly where he wanted to. And you're going to understand this as we move right into this. So what you're going to learn is about construction lines, a little feature in the Vectric software that not a whole lot of people know about or use or really know how to use. And that's exactly what you're going to learn today. You're going to come away with from this video at a whole new level. You're going to say, oh, now I can design that thing I'm thinking about. You're just going to know more things that's going to give you a lot more power in your designing when you create your CNC router projects. So what we're going to do is dive into James' email, and then I'm going to show you the design that he had, and then we're going to take it into breaking it down in the right way to an engineering type of way, because he hand drew it up, and then we're going to bring it into the Vectric software and use the way we redrew it to use these construction lines the way that we want to do it, so that we will have exactly the right lines, the right dimensions, everything. So get ready to learn some really cool stuff. Let's get into this.
So the email says, "Hi Garrett, this is one side of the arcade machine I am having difficulty trying to draw. As I said in my previous email, the outside ruler is in increments of 50 millimeters, cannot change to 10 millimeters. Is there a way where I can drag a line to type in the measurement to be more accurate? Kind regards, James." So we're going to jump over to Vectric real quick and show you what he's referring to when he's talking about the scale or the ruler. So in the drawing area of your Vectric software, which that's what this is here, this whole gray space is all the drawing area. And at the top is a scale, and also at the left side. And so this scale is a reference for you to see how big your project is. For example, there is a 0 in the middle right here, and then it goes to minus 10, 11, 12, roughly 12 and a half. We'll just move the project up to see exactly where that's at, and it looks like it's at 12 and a half. And then on the other side, it's the same thing, 12 and a half on the positive end. It's the same way on the side. You have the same scale. So we have a 0 here, a minus 10, and the other 10 has now gone off the screen. You can see that the scale is dynamic as I move the project around. And by the way, if you don't know how I'm moving this project around right now, you want to watch the video I created on the zoom and pan features, and that will explain everything about how this works really quickly and how that works, how I'm zooming in and out without using these sidebars. In fact, you probably want to download the PDF that I have created. It has all the videos I've created on this channel, and that PDF is sorted by the Vectric tutorials, the router tutorials, router bit tutorials, easy projects. It's really built for the beginner, and it's been sorted in order that you want to be watching videos in. So down below is a link for not just that video about panning and zooming, but also the PDF that has a list of all the videos. Getting back to this, you have the scale. And what he's saying is his scale is reading 50 millimeters. So basically it's 0 here and then 50 there, and he wants to see it in increments of 10. And if the thing he's trying to accomplish is, can he snap lines to these scale increments so that he can draw things very accurately? So the first thing that I want to point out to you is this scale is not something you can actually use to snap lines to. However, James, we can use this in a certain way to actually do accurate drawings. So we'll dive into that. But the one other thing I want you to know about this scale before we move on is when I'm zooming in and out, these numbers change. The scale is dynamic. So what that means is when I scroll in, and I'm scrolling in by rolling my mouse button, you can see that this resolution on the scale changes. And what I mean by resolution is before it said 0 to 10, and now it's saying 0 to 2 inches, and then we have increments of tenths of an inch between them. And if I keep going in, eventually the 1 inch is going to pop up, and it just keeps doing that. So that's what I mean by it's dynamic. It'll change relative to being zoomed in and out. But the scale itself is really just an imaging thing for you to reference to. But you, to the best of my knowledge with this software, you can't use the scale specifically to place lines back and forth. So now you understand the scale, and James's problem is he's trying to get the scale to read a certain thing and be able to use the scale, which you can't directly. So now we're going to go over to James's picture that he sent me, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, and then we'll move on to how to do this project the right way. I have downloaded James's picture of the image that he sent to me. And you can see it's a freehand drawing of the side of this arcade panel that he wants to cut out on his CNC router. And what he has done is it's clear to me that he's taken a tape measure and measured from point to point. So he measured from the top of the panel down to this first level here where I guess the controls are going to be right in this area, and he gave me a measurement of 630. He also measured from the bottom of the panel. There's 120 written right there, and he's gone up to this area right here, this flat right there, and he gave me a dimension of 440. And so it's kind of broken up. There's no centralized place where he's taking these dimensions from. And there's one other thing that he is missing, which is that angle right here. But we can figure all that out using the software to our advantage. Now, one other thing I want to point out, if you look at the back line of this drawing that he did, it looks like it leans forward a little bit. I'm going to assume it's straight up and down, and the angle of that line is by virtue of the angle at which he shot the picture and that it's a freehand drawing.
Now, the way he has drawn it up, we can't work with it in the Vectric software, so we have to redo this drawing. So what I'm going to be doing is printing this thing out and redo all the dimensions in an engineering type style so that we can work with it in the Vectric software. So we're going to go print this thing out, and I'm going to show you exactly how you need to set this kind of stuff up so you can work with it. Let's go. So here is James' drawing printed out. And what we have to do is we have to create our start point for this job to build our dimensions out from, because you can see right now he's got 630 here, 130 here, 440 here, but there's no specific start point to start from, so we have to create one. And so what we're going to do is create that start point right here at this lower left corner. So here's how we're going to break this out. We're going to start with our zero line right here, and then our next horizontal line will be at this line right here. So I'm just going to draw a line out there. We've got another point right here. We're going to draw it out right there. We're basically just turning this into an engineering drawing. We're taking every point along the way and all the way to the top. And then we're going to do the same thing from back to front. So we have our zero line right there already, and our next line is right here. Now the way I'm assuming this is that's it's 220, and that this is also 220. So I'm just going to stay with that. Oh, you can see right here it's 120, and then this goes to 220. So we're going to just draw a line down there. We'll come over to the next intersection point right there. We're going to draw a line down from there, and we got our end point here, a line down from there. So basically what we're going to do is just do some math
from here, assuming this is our 0 point, and this one is 440. And he doesn't have a dimension up from here to here, so we're going to have to take this number and subtract 60. So 130 minus 60 is going to be 70, and then we just have to add it to this 440, so it's going to be 510, and then we add the 60, so it's going to be 570, and then the last one is at the top. We have to add all these numbers together. So we have 440, 560, 1170 plus 30, so it's 1200 millimeters. So it's 1200 millimeters. And then we start here. We know that this width is 120, both ends. So it's 120. We already got that. And then we are 200 wide, so it's 200. And then we add another 100 to it, 300, and then we have 200 plus, that's 200, so that's 400. And so now we have our start point, and we can build all our lines out from there.
Now, we've been setting the foundations on this whole thing so we can work with construction lines. What we're going to do now is get into the Vectric software, finalize our setup in the software, and then start working with construction lines. We really have to have all this stuff up front so you know why we're doing what we're doing with the construction lines. All right, let's get into Vectric.
So now we have to set up our project to start designing this thing out. The first thing I did was take a picture of the drawing I just did. Actually, I redrew it because I was looking through my camera when I was drawing it for you. I redrew it, and then I took a picture of it, and I sent it to myself, and now we're going to import it as a bitmap. So we have it right on the screen to reference to. Now, if you're new to this, a bitmap is an image that you can actually bring into the software, and you can actually use it to draw with using what they call trace bitmap. We're not going to do that here, but if you want to know how to work with pictures in the software, I've got videos that'll teach you how to do that. Again, download that PDF and it'll have the videos in there to show you how to work with images, because it's very cool to bring a picture in and create a project out of it. So we're going to use the import bitmap feature, which is in the file operations menu right here, and it's this last icon right over here. When you hover over it, it says import bitmap. It looks like a little folder with an arrow pointing out of it. When you click that, the directory is going to open up. If my computer will speed up, there we go. And this is the image right here. So all you have to do is double click that image. Now, just before I do that, when it comes to bitmaps, there's only certain types of image files that Vectric will read. Whatever device you're using, that if it is not that file type, then you will not see it on the screen. And that does happen on occasion. In order to know, you can simply come down here where it says image files, and then there's a bunch of extensions here that are listed. So I'm just going to click on that. You can see that it'll take in BMP, JPG, GIF, TIF, TIFF, PNG, and JPEG. Now, if you understand what the difference is between a TIF and a TIFF is, please put it down in the comments, because I'm not sure what the difference is. Anyway, so that's the type of files that it will pick up and import into the design project area. So this is it. I'm going to double click it, and it brings it in. So I'm not going to use this to try to draw with. I just want the image here so I can use it. So I have to double click it to get these little beads around it, and then when I hover inside, you can see my cursor is a four-way arrow. That just means that I can now grab this and drag it around, and I can be anywhere inside of this image space. When that cursor is highlighted, you hold down your left mouse button and you can just drag the image over to where you want to drag it to. So there we are, we have it out of our way, and now we can zoom in and we can see everything that I have drawn on that image. So now the next thing is to get our project to the proper size, and we have decided that this lower left corner right here is our start point. So we want to make sure the lower left corner of our project is a start point. Right now it's at the center. So we have to readjust our project size. So we want to create it to the size of the project plus some material. So the size of our project is 400 wide by 1200 tall. So we're going to go into the project, set the job dimensions and origin, and this will set the project size that we'll be working on. So we click that button and make sure you're on single-sided, and then we want to make sure we're set appropriately in the job size box. Now James is working in metric, so we're going to switch over to metrics. You see these two little buttons right here. You want to switch that first if you are going to switch over, because Vectric will adjust these numbers. You see right now I have 25 in the width and 18 in the height and 0.75 in thickness. When I click millimeters, it calculates them into metric units, and you can see that there's this like small area right here. It's not jiving right, so we just want to make sure you switch to metric first by clicking this radio button and then adjusting your size. Now we're 400 wide by 1200 tall, so I'm going to add 100 to each just to give me the extra space, because I have to cut these things out anyway. There's several different ways we can cut it out, but this is the way we're going to do it. And so I'm going to say 500 wide by 1300, and then the thickness is 18 millimeters. So I'll change that to 1/8, and then we're going to set off the top of the material, and we want to make sure that our XY datum position is in the lower left corner. This is the important part of this. So we're going to select that, and then we're going to come down and click OK. And now our project is all set up the way we want it to be.
Okay, we have set everything up. We are now ready to work with the construction lines, and you're going to learn a whole bunch of stuff about this. In fact, you're going to know a whole new way to do your design work in the Vectric software. So if this pre-setup kind of stuff made some sense to you, then maybe you can give me a thumbs up. But let's get into this construction line thing that you're really going to like, and you will find a lot of ways to be able to use this to make your designs exactly the way you want them to be. Let's go.
Vectric has this cool little feature where we can come into the scales or the ruler, where you hover your cursor in it and then click your left mouse button and hold it and then drag down, and you see I'm pulling a line down. And the interesting thing about that line is, look next to my cursor, you see a number. Right now it says 340. And if I move it down a little more, now it says 320, 310, 300. So we have a direct reference that we can use right here to create our construction lines.
Now, one of the things you might have noticed here is the line was moving at increments of 10 millimeters. The reason it was doing that is because the snap feature was turned on. If we had the snap feature turned off, it's just going to be random whatever you're on, but it's not going to be relevant to any kind of grid placement that Vectric is creating in the background for you to be able to snap at particular references or divisions of lines as you move along. So just remember that snap feature is really handy when you're doing this kind of stuff. It'll help you get your lines exactly where you want to get them by virtue of that readout. Let's keep going.
Now when I let this line go, we have this dashed line here. This dashed line is a construction line. It's not a technical vector in the drawing. It's going to be something we can reference to, and we can use our snaps to take advantage of. Now snaps is kind of important here in order to make sure things are going to go to where we want them to go. What snaps is, it's a function that allows the lines when you draw them to go to very specific points like intersections or tangent points, what have you. So in order to get the snaps turned on, it's these two buttons right up here, the first one and the second one. You want them to have that box around them. That means that they're turned on. If you click it and now you see there's just an image without a box around it, that means it's turned off. So we want both of these turned on. So that's what we originally or initially want to have set up. Now, one of the things about the construction line is if you place it incorrectly, you can always re-grab it and move it around. So you see I've grabbed it and I'm moving it and the original is still there. But I'm going to come down here and let it go, and now it has moved that line down to there. So that's one thing. And then the other is if you want to get the line out of your way, all you have to do is just grab it and drag it all the way back off the screen and it's out of your way. And just to show you what I mean, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You can see it didn't show up here, which means it's been basically parked up into the scale. So it's kind of a cool little feature that we can start building this out with. I'm going to do the side scale for just a moment. I'm going to hover into it, and then I'm going to hold my left mouse button out, and I'm going to start dragging. Now you see right now the number says minus 190. That's because it's minus 190 millimeters from the X position, meaning from this up and down line. And it's in the negative quadrant, and that's why that number is negative. So it works the same way. I can drop it in here, and when my cursor has that double arrow, that means I can move it left or right. I can click on it, hold it, and move it, and you see the number is next to my cursor, and I can let it go and it'll move it. So we're going to drag it back off into the ruler, and we're going to see where we want to start building these lines at. And what we're going to do is we're effectively going to use these numbers that we just created, and we're going to work on the vertical first, meaning the up and down numbers. So the 440, 510, 570. And we're just going to take advantage of these lines. The first one is going to be at the 440. So I'm going to hover up on the scale, hold my left mouse button down, and drag that down until that number turns into 440. When it turns to 440, I let it go. The next line is 510. So I'm going to do it again and come down to 510 right there. And then we have 570. So we're going to bring that down to 570. Now you see, as I scrolled in, now I can get to finer resolution. Right now it says 565. It wouldn't do that before because I was zoomed too far out. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So we're going to do a 570. Now I'm going to zoom really close into that 570 line. And I'm going to bring one down. And now you can see it's 560, 567.5, 567. So we have a lot of versatility. If you need to get your lines in very specific points, all you have to do is zoom in and grab a line off the scale and put it into position. Now, one of the things I want to show you before we continue on, I'm going to draw a random line using the draw polyline, and I'm going to just draw it right here and right there, and then we're just going to hit the space bar, and that ends that drawing feature, and I'll hit the escape button to get out of the line mode over here. I can hit the close button, or I can just hit the escape button. I'm going to hit escape, and now I'm going to grab another line, and I'm going to drag it down here, and you see it's moving at increments of 5 millimeters. And so when I come down, it's actually going to grab on to that endpoint there. And you can see I got this real random number of 376.442. So when you have strange intersection points and your cursor is close to them while you're creating these construction lines, it's going to use that snap and actually grab that random point that you have. And so now I'm going to go down, and you see it's just coming at 5 millimeter increments. And then when I get close to the center of the line, it's going to give me another strange number. So you can actually drop it into these special points that you want these construction lines to drop into if you need to. There's lots of different times that you can use this. So I drug that line back out of the image up to the scale, and I'm going to delete this line. So I select it and I delete it. So we ended at the 570 line, and now we just need the final one at the top, which is 1200. And that's going to be near the top, so I'm just going to come down here and find 1200 right there and drop that construction line. Now you notice I didn't do one at the bottom. I don't need to. I already have a construction line by that plane that is already drawn in, that gray plane. I don't need a construction line there. Vectric will pick that up when I'm working on this because the snaps are turned on. But now we're going to do the side to side, or the up and down lines. So we are going to first do the one at 120. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and come over, grab a line, and we're just going to move right on over to 120. So it's going at 2mm increments right now. There's 120. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because these are round numbers. The next one is 300. So we're going to grab another line, go out to 300. I'm sorry, the next one, okay, so I just made an error. I'm going to drag that line back off. The next one is the 200 right here. So I'm just going to pick that line back up and move it over to 200. And then the next one is going to be 300. So grab another one, and there is 300. And the final one is going to be 400. So come out to 400. All right, so our basic construction is now done. All we have to do now is draw the lines. So we just want to kind of keep in mind what we've got here. We've got this 120 right here, and then it goes up and over to 200. Then it comes out to 300 and goes up to 510. And we can reference our scale on the side while we're doing this. So all these are straight lines, so I'm going to come over and draw with the Polyline. This is the zigzag button right here under Create Vectors. Select that, and with my snaps turned on, I'm just going to come down to the 0 point, and you see my cursor has now turned into a round circle with a crosshair in it. So I'm going to click while it's reading like that. I'm going to just come over to the first line. That's the bottom. And I click, and now we're going to come up to that next line there. That's 200 up. I'm going to click, come over to that next line, click, up, and I'm just going to keep going all the way around. Now, this line right here doesn't mean anything on the top. We created this line right here so we can get this angle in here. This particular line that I'm drawing right now comes all the way back over to here. I'll show you what I mean. This is 200, and we have another 100 millimeters there. So this is the little angle I'm talking about. So we're going to come right back to there, and then this tapers back over like that. Going to click to the corner of the material there, and then click down at the bottom. And that is done. So now I'm going to close the line. I can either hit escape or hit the close button. So I hit the close button. And so now it's kind of hard to see what we're looking at. Oh, I made a mistake. I went all the way up to the top of the project. I hope you caught that. This is just some of the things that usually happens to us once in a while. It doesn't matter how good we are. So how do I fix it? It's very easy. All I need to do is bring this intersection point right here. If I can get that indicated right there and right there, and I need to bring them down to where it crosses right there. And the way we do that is by selecting the line. And now you see it looks like everything's selected, but it's not. The construction lines naturally have that look. I'm going to hit N for node, and now we brought the nodes up. So I'm simply going to come up and grab the node, and I'm going to swing it around until it grabs right here. And you can see it's giving me a little readout, a distance of 100, but the cursor is snapping onto that point. Now the cursor is not indicating it's snapping on there because it's a round target right now, but I can see it. So you just want to pay attention to that. You can always zoom in close to it to make sure that it landed where it's supposed to land. And same with the next one right there. The other way I could have fixed that was by just drawing a new line and being done with it. So that's corrected. I'm going to hit escape to get out of node, and that is done now.
You know, I was just thinking as I was doing this little correction here that if you have not decided to get your design software yet and you're considering getting Vectric, Aspire, or the Vcarve, or Cut2D, that you might consider using the links that I have for that. They're called affiliate links. And what happens is you go to the source that I've given you, which is the Longmill CNC site, and purchase it from them. It costs the same as it does with Vectric, except there I get affiliate commission for it. Just might consider that. That would be awesome. All right, I'm going to get back into this and let's just keep going. Thanks a lot for hearing my little request.
So now we've got a mess, right? We got all these dashed lines going on through our image. So what do we do now? Well, all we have to do is turn them off. Very easy and simple. Where the scales meet in the upper right, upper left corner is a little image of these little dashed lines. And all you have to do is click in that little corner right there, and it turns all those lines off. Now, if you need to bring those lines back, all you have to do is click it again, and it turns them all back on. Now, I want to show you another little trick. I'm going to turn them off, and it's just working on this thing. We're doing some other stuff, and then we realize we need another construction line. The minute we grab another construction line, the constructions turn back on again. So all I did was click in the ruler, and you see everything turned back on again. And now I can drag another construction line into the project, and I can place it the same way. What we can't do with these construction lines is type in a number in the keyboard and hit enter like you can do with some, like when you're drawing lines or drawing your vectors. So meaning if I wanted this to be put at, we'll say 100. In some cases, you can actually type in your keyboard 100, hit enter, and things will go to that location. I'll show you what I mean. But right now, I'm typing in 100, and I hit enter, and it doesn't do anything. So we have to manually place these things and using the technique that I'm using. The other advantages to this is if you're trying to get like a specific angle on something like we did here, you don't know the angle, but you know the height and the length, or the rise over run. You can create the construction lines like that and then draw lines between them, and you'll have them. So what I meant by when you can type numbers in, I'm going to start a new line, and I'm just going to come over here, and we are at, we'll just say, if you look at my cursor, I have numbers next to my cursor, my X, Y points, where if I click right now, that line is going to drop. So we're at X58 and Y60. Now what I want is this to be a certain length. So we want Y to stop at 200. So I'm simply going to drag this line way up here, and you can see Y is at 280. But if I type in 200 and hit enter, now it has repositioned the endpoint of that line. So that's the way that works. And then we can also, I accidentally hit the button there. One of the other things you can do is you can set the length of the line as you wish. So the line right now is going this way at some random angle. And so let's say I want it 200 long. I just type in 200, enter, and now that line is 200 long. So that's how you can type things in and get specific points plugged in. But you can't do that with the construction line. Okay, so we're going to turn these construction lines off by clicking the little button up here, and there they are. And then we're going to grab that shape we just drew, so we can carve it out of our project. We need to get it into the middle. And we're simply going to come over to Transform Objects, and we're going to go to Align Selected Objects, click that, and we're going to click this upper middle button right here, which will position the drawing in the center of the material. So I click it, and there it is. And James, there is your project. I'm going to close that, and voila. Now all you have to do is generate your tool paths.
Now we're not done yet. I got one more thing I want to show you. At this point though, I do want to ask you if you feel like you've learned something new that's useful to you and you'll be able to apply in the future, please give me a thumbs up and especially a comment down below. Let me know if I've given you something that was useful or not, because that helps me know that I'm giving you the right content. And it also boosts the channel. I mean, basically, it works like this. If it helped you and your response to that is a thumbs up and a comment, then YouTube sees that. And if it's helpful to you, then it's helpful to other people, and that's why comments are helpful and thumbs up. Also, the other thing about comments, I do miss stuff, right? I'm not perfect. And so if you have other things that will help in this type of thing or something that I missed, then please put it down in the comments, because other viewers read those comments. And so we need your kind of help, your support on this kind of stuff. I do. Also subscribe if you're brand new to this stuff, because Vectric software, CNC routers, it's all a big learning process that can be a really bumpy ride. And I try to create the videos for you that will help you smooth that out. Download that PDF that has all the videos I've created. And if you're brand new to this whole thing, then you definitely want to do that, because I've seen so many of our brothers and sisters that are just getting into CNC routers run into train wreck after train wreck because they got way ahead of themselves before they should have, and don't understand what went wrong. That's why you want to follow a process, and that's what's on that PDF, the process that you need to follow that will take you on that learning curve the right way. So go down in the description, download that. All right, let's get into this, and we're going to knock out this last little thing, generate the tool path, and we're going to be done. Let's go.
So what I'm going to do is go over to the tool path, click that arrow, and this would be a profile. Since this is the finish size, we need to profile it around the outside. So I'm going to click the profile toolpath button. And I already know I need to be on the outside of the project. So I just click the outside, and then I've got to select the tool that I want, or the router bit. So I hit select, and I'm going to use the 1/4 inch. It'll be the 1/4 inch down cutting end mill. And by the way, if you're relatively new with this and you're still getting router bits, and maybe you've just gotten a brand new set from the IDC Woodcraft store or from somewhere, but your Vectric software does not have the populated tool database where you're having to manually enter stuff, I have already created an entire tool database for you that you can import into your Vectric software, so all the data will be there, and you'll also have all the information you need about the bit up here, and all your feeds and speeds are already plugged in. I've got a video that explains how to import that and where to get that file, so that will be down in the description. Again, if you do not have your tool library database set up and you're manually putting these numbers in, go down in the description, click the link to that video, watch the video. It's not very long. It'll tell you how to import it and where to get the file from. All right, so I have clicked the 1/4 inch down cutting end mill. I'm going to hit select, and then we just have to set our depth. Right now it's at 0.5 millimeters, which is almost nothing. And we're going to just type in Z equals, because we're going to cut this out the whole way. And you see it plugged in 18 millimeters. And we're going to roll with that. So we're just going to call this arcade cutout. Always name your toolpath, and always put in at the end of the name the bit that you're using. So we're using a 1/4 inch end mill, so I'm just going to put in 14EM. Don't use hashes or other symbols, because it won't transfer over into the code that you're going to generate. All right, calculate that. It says no vector selected, so I have to grab those vectors, then I can calculate it. And then we preview the selected toolpath, and voila, there is your arcade panel, James.
And there you have it. Give me a thumbs up if this was helpful. And I really do hope that from what you just learned that you can take this away and it'll take your designing to the next level. You've just learned something brand new in the Vectric software. So that's really cool. Very powerful software. It's really good for this kind of stuff that we like to make, right? Signs like that and whatever you want to come up with. All right, like, subscribe, comment, and have a great day. Better tomorrow, and I'll talk to you next time.